Hey everybody, it's Randy Ray at The Literate Texan, where we talk about literature, highbrow literature, lowbrow literature, and everything in between. In this video, I'm talking about the books that I read for the month of August. I read 8 books in August, and there are 4 books that I started but didn't finish in August, and I'm going to tell you about every one of them. First thing I want to talk about, though, is my statistics for the month. I kept a detailed reading log in the month of August, which is something I haven't done before. You know, I keep up with the number of books that I read every month, and that's always fun, but it's also a kind of meaningless metric because the number of books you read doesn't really have anything to do with the number of pages that you read. I mean, you know, you can read 30 books in a month if they're all 80 pages long. And in fact, one of the books that I read in August was 80 pages long. Some of the other books were a little longer than that, but I want to go ahead and give you the actual statistics for the month of August. I read a total of, just in the stuff that I finished, I didn't count the stuff that well, no, this includes everything that I read. I read 1,823 pages, which averages out to 59 pages a day. That comprises 8 books that I finished and 4 books that I didn't finish. And also that includes 5 days in August where I didn't read anything at all. I took 5 days off in the middle of the month. I guess I needed a break from the reading. But those are my statistics: 1,823 total pages read, an average of 59 pages per day, and that includes 5 zeros. So imagine if I had read on those other 5 days too, right? I would have really had some numbers to post. Now, of course, the numbers don't really mean anything, but it is fun to keep up with them, and I wanted to do that. So I'm going to go into the numbers a little bit on each video, but mostly I want to rank the books that I finished from worst to best, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the books that I started but didn't finish, because I'm planning to finish those soon. So that's coming next. You'll want to stay tuned toward the end of the video. Okay, so from worst to best, and none of these were bad, but the lowest ranked book that I read was called Miss Lonelyhearts, was written by Nathaniel West. Miss Lonelyhearts is the story of an advice column writer at the New York Post during the Great Depression. As you can imagine, the kinds of letters that the letter columnist is receiving are pretty somber. They're pretty downbeat, and it's pretty depressing just from that point. But the other thing is that the guy who's writing them tends to take on the reader's suffering from his own, and he doesn't get along well with anybody that he works with. He has a lot of compassion for everyone who writes in, but he can't do much to help them. And he eventually winds up drunk and insane. And that all happens in the short space of 80 pages, but it was not my favorite book. Nathaniel West is a good writer, though, and I'm giving him another chance with The Day of the Locust, which I'm reading this month as a buddy read with my friend James at Quaint and Curious Volumes. So I'm actually halfway through Day of the Locust so far, and I'm liking it a lot better. I hope James is going to enjoy it too. Number 7 on my list is Galactic Patrol, which was written by E. Doc Smith, and I've talked about it in a couple of other videos besides this. But Galactic Patrol is pulp science fiction from the 1930s. It was heavily influential on both the Green Lantern Corps and on Star Wars, but it wasn't that great a book, to be honest with you. It was all plot. But we do see, this is where it seems pretty obvious, this is where George Lucas got the term the Force and used the Force from. And the idea behind these cosmic gems is also where the Green Lantern Corps probably got their rings. So modern space opera owes a great debt to this book, even though it's made a lot of improvements on since Galactic Patrol in the 30s. Number 6 on my list was Walk Like a Buddha, Even If Your Boss is an Asshole. And I really enjoyed this. This is a self-help book. Self-help's not my favorite genre, but I do enjoy the Buddhist approach and perspective on the things. This was, interestingly enough, also a question and answer type book, although it's not fictional. It's true life. People wrote in with real questions about, as an aspiring Buddhist or as an aspiring Bodhisattva, how do I handle this real life situation or that real life situation? And like I say, it was really good, but it wasn't as good as the other 5 books. The other 5 books were really, really good. And so you'll want to stick around to see which one was the number 1 one, because like I say, none of these books were bad, these 3 books, 6, 7, and 8 that we just went over, were good but not great. Okay, number 5 was Rambo, First Blood, Part 2 by David Morrell. Okay, this was a fantastic read. I read it for Garbaugust, and it's a men's adventure story, and I think most people who've been to the theater know about it. But the story behind the book is almost as compelling as the story in the book. David Morrell wrote Rambo, First Blood, and it was adapted into a movie. And at the end of the novel, First Blood, and this is a spoiler, so you got to be used to that by now if you've watched my channel much at all, but this is a spoiler. But in First Blood, at the end of the book, John Rambo dies. He does not die at the end of the movie because they had a feeling they were going to make a sequel. Well, Morrell was asked to write the sequel, the novelization to the sequel. And he said, well, I don't know how I can do that because he dies at the end of the book. And they explained to him, all you need to do is have a page that says the John Rambo in the movie doesn't die. He dies in the novel, but not in the movie. And this novelization is about the character from the movie. But he plays around with Zen Buddhism, and Rambo is even more of a Superman in this book than he is in the movie, if you can believe that. But it was just wonderful. I loved it. It had a lot to do. It was really hard to choose between it and number 4 on my list. Number 4 on my list was also a Garbaugust pick. And if you want to know what Garbaugust is, just go down to the description and click on the hashtag for it. But it was called Created the Destroyer, the Destroyer number 1. It was written in the late 60s. The premise behind the Destroyer novels is that the U.S. government sometimes needs to work outside the Constitution to protect the Constitution because organized crime is so big and powerful that we can't handle it otherwise. They're just too well organized and too powerful. So it's basically a 2-man operation. You've got Dr. Harold Smith, who's the administrator who reports directly to the president at any given time, and Remo Williams, who's a police officer who's had plastic surgery, so no one can recognize him anymore. And he was executed, but it was a fake execution. And he's being trained by Chun, this master of the martial arts from Korea, who's come over to train him how to become a deadly force. And he's really superhuman too. It's a little bit more fun than Rambo. It's not quite as somber or as dark. Both of these books are about, a superhuman man who's protecting the United States government from its own ineffectiveness, though. So, it's close to a tie, in my opinion. The only reason I'm giving Destroyer of the Place number 4 is because it was the start of a long series. There were at least 150 books in the Destroyer series, and I've read quite a few of them, and they're all, without exception, really good. Also did a buddy read in August of, this is number 3, Travels with Charley by John Steinbeck, which is about John Steinbeck's journey throughout the United States in his camper truck with his poodle, who's named Charley, and is probably the most interesting character in the book, although there are a lot of interesting characters in the books. But I did it as buddy read with Robin Songs Reads, and we just had a blast with it. It's a terrific book, and this is where my prejudice towards literary fiction gets exposed, because I might have enjoyed the 2 men's adventure books a little bit more than Travels with Charley. But Travels with Charley just edged it out because of the beauty of the language and the whole literary aspect of it. It's an important book. It's a little more highbrow, and it's just that much better than the other 2. But I'm not too much of a literary snob. My number 2 book for the month was The Killer Inside Me by Jim Thompson. It's a crime novel, and it's set in West Texas. It's basically Psycho set in West Texas, but much, much better and more sophisticated. So if you like Psycho, you're probably going to love The Killer Inside Me. And it doesn't have the disturbing underlying message about trans people, which is an unfortunate thing. They didn't know anything about that when Robert Bloch wrote Psycho. But anyway, The Killer Inside Me is just a better book. He's a better writer than Robert Bloch, and it's just more interesting. Everything about it is better. So, yeah, basically the guy's a sheriff in a West Texas town. He acts like a dumb hillbilly that everybody likes, but he's also really boring. But eventually he kills so many people in his life that he's the only connection to, that it's just the unavoidable conclusion that he's the guy committing these murders. So anyway, great book. You should read it. The movie wasn't bad either. And my number one book for the month of August was The Ballad of the Sad Cafe by Carson McCullers. This is a work of Southern Gothic fiction, and it's a collection of stories, the first of which is a novella, The Ballad of the Sad Cafe. And this is what Southern Gothic fiction is all about. You know, you got dwarves, you've got hunchbacks, you've got people with all kinds of grotesque deformities that, have really bizarre relationships. It's heavily implied that the woman who owns the Sad Cafe is a cousin of the dwarf who comes to live with her, but it's also heavily implied that they have a romantic relationship, if you can call it that. She also has an ex-husband that her dwarf cousin just absolutely adores and looks up to. And the story gets even weirder from there. I'm not even going to go into any more detail about it. The other stories in the book are also really good. If you like Southern Gothic fiction, Carson McCullers is hard to beat in The Ballad of the Sad Cafe. Really, really good book. It was the best book I read in August. So, yeah. But I'm not finished yet. I've still got 4 more books that I haven't finished that I want to talk about briefly here. Okay, so the first book that I didn't finish, but it's short and I will finish it very soon, is called Promised Land, and it's a Spencer novel by Robert Parker. Robert W. Parker wrote a big series of private eye novels starring a character named Spencer, and this is one of the earlier books in that series. But it's terrific so far. I absolutely love it. Apparently Spencer's a former boxer, and it's going through the tropes. He's looking for a missing person. He's going through the list of people that he's trying to find clues from, and he has to play tough guy with some of them, and then he has to play smart aleck with some of the others. But it's really good. It's really well written. It's slick. It's polished. It's fast paced. I'm absolutely in love with this book. I don't want to finish it. The second book that I haven't finished yet, but I started in August, is called The Eiger Sanction, which was written by Trevanian. And The Eiger Sanction might be better known to some of my readers as a movie starring Clint Eastwood. But a sanction is, in the parlance of this particular set of espionage agencies, is an assassination that's carried out in response to another assassination. And in the Eigers are mountains. The main character in the Eiger Sanction is not just an assassin, but he is also an amateur mountain climber, and he's an art critic, an art appreciator, who has a huge black market collection of artwork. And it's also one of these classic one last job criminal stories where he's got to break some of his rules, but it'll be the last job he ever does. So it's really good so far. It's fairly lengthy though, and I'll finish it this month, I'm sure, because I'm absolutely loving it. It's really good too. Another book that I just barely started, I think I'm maybe 20 or 30 pages in, is called Klara and the Sun. This was a recommendation to me from Brandy at the Book Collectic. She said I would really love it, so I started it, but I haven't gotten very far into it. From what I can tell, it's got something to do with clones that you can buy, clones or robots that you can buy at a department store. That's as far as I've gotten so far. I don't know much else about it, but you'll get a full review of that one in next month's September wrap-up video, because I'm committed to finishing it in August too. And finally, the fourth book that I started but didn't finish in August was Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. And you probably already know that Oliver Twist is about a little orphan boy who is born in a workhouse. And they're really trying to get rid of him because he's a little bit of a troublemaker. He's an interesting character. I don't know if this is going to be as good as Great Expectations or not. I loved Great Expectations. I think Charles Dickens is a wonderful writer, and I'm looking forward to finishing Oliver Twist. The only thing about Charles Dickens novels is, almost without exception, they're long books. Okay, so that's my quick August wrap-up. The only event that I really participated in August was Garb August, and not all of the books that I read qualified for Garb August. But actually, you know what? I guess I was sort of participating in Rocket Summer too. Rocket Summer, Galactic Patrol would count for Rocket Summer for sure. But yeah, most of the other ones are Garb August picks, and some of them were just plain literary picks that I read just because I like them. So September's going to be big. I've got a September to be read video coming up really soon. You'll definitely want to look for it because September is Shorty September. So my goal is to read a book a day for Shorty September. And I think I'm going to do it. So I'll have all kinds of cool statistics and stuff at the end of the month. But I'm going to start the month with a really cool list of books, all of which are short enough that you can finish in one sitting. But I'm also going to finish some of the books that I started last month but didn't finish. Until that video, I'm going to bid you a fond adieu. Now, I'm going to remind you there's two important things that you need to do. One is to stay hydrated, and the other one is to stay sexy. And actually staying hydrated is probably an important part of staying sexy, but we can talk about that more maybe Wednesday, because on Wednesday, Mark and I are hosting a video chat, a live stream with Steve Donahue. So anyway, see you then, folks. Thanks for watching.